Welcome back for another episode of Errant Adventures, the solo actual play podcast where stories are told at the speed of dice. With me, Steve Morrison, your game master and solo player. Now come on, let's grab the dice and see where our story goes. Welcome back for episode 2 of our Artefact playthrough. Last time we introduced the ornament, this artifact that we are exploring the history of, this medallion that was created by Zuthair, a fey artificer of Elfheim. And this medallion, this artifact came into possession of a student of Zuthair, Asharia, who stole it from him. And she left Elfheim behind and she went out into the world. She went to some ancient city where she was trying to delve for knowledge and lore in order to become a creator of her own powerful, magical items. And unfortunately, due to the artifact's influence, she delved too deep and too greedily and did not release a Balrog, thankfully. But she did, unfortunately, die in the catacombs beneath this ancient city. The life essence sapped away by some ancient, even more ancient power buried deep beneath. About a decade later, the artifact was discovered by Ibrahim, a son of a noble family in this city. He took it back up and it advised him, and this is where the name advisor comes, and he became a member of the ruling council of this city. It helped him to root out his enemies on the council as he rose to power to become the prince of the city. And then he hid the artifact away in a room. And as often happens, there was revolution and his downfall came, and the amulet was lost for a year as it sat in this room collecting dust, its own aura almost turning people away, this door that was forgotten for a year, until finally someone new discovered it. So last time we finished up Act 1 of this experience. So now it's time to move into Act 2, a time of glory. Once again, we will choose a keeper. And there are, as there were before, 4 options. There's a righteous champion, an all-conquering warlord, a bandit king, or a monster hunter. So I'm going to roll my d4 and see what we get. A 3, a bandit king. They are sardonic, ruthless, and respected. So we're going to describe the keeper and the acquisition. It's been a year in this city, and I think that this city is part of this vast empire. We'll call it the Comitian Empire. This city, as I said last time, is ancient even before humans. But humans now reside in this city. Maybe at one time it was an ancient Fey city. We don't know. But the human kingdom that rules this city here just went through this tumult, this overthrow of its prince, and a new ruling family has taken power. But I think because of the chaos that revolution created, there is weakness in the city's defenses. And so a bandit king comes riding in from across the sands and past these hills from this other area into this sandy, almost desert-like region where this city is located, and rides into the city, sacks the city. And we see this moment as this bandit king strides through the halls of the palace, the new prince and, his family and advisors have all fled before the fury of this bandit king. And we see the bandit king and his men roaming through the halls of the palace, sacking it and taking all of its riches. And the bandit king hears this whisper, this voice that beckons it. Come and join us. And he finds this door and opens it and finds Advisor hanging on the wall, covered in a year's worth of dust. Hearing this voice in his head, it beckons him forth, and he reaches out and takes a hold of that silver chain, and he pulls it off the wall, and he puts it over his head and leaves that place with an advisor. Let's give the bandit king a name. Now for this, I have opened up Maze Rats, one of my favorite random table things to use for fantasy names and fantasy randomized tables. So let's go ahead and roll 2d6 and see what we get. Ogden. We now know how he has acquired the artifact. Now we're going to answer the keeper's questions. Describe their outlaw kingdom's seat of power. How did you help them ascend to their crooked throne? So that's interesting. So I wonder if he's not yet the bandit king. He's the leader of these bandit raiders, and he has sacked this ancient city through his audacity, his cunning, his guile. And he returns back across the sands, over the hills, into this other land that is maybe a fractious place with various baronies and earldoms and these smaller sort of kingdom units that are not unified in any way. And maybe there are a whole bunch of bandit groups in this region. Because he returns with this wealth, he is able to start buying the service of some of these other bandit groups. And he begins to put together this coalition of bandits and raiders. And he finds for himself a safe haven in the mountains to the south of this countryside. And he's drawing these other bandits to him. And I think because of Advisor's inherent powers, the power to be beguiling, the power to whisper into the hearts of others, very much like with Ibrahim, Advisor helps Ogden to learn what the wants and desires are of the various leaders of these other bandit factions. And he's able to either play into those, or he's able to, if he decides that, one of these bandit leaders maybe is dangerous to him because they have a certain thirst for blood. And Ogden is not necessarily bloodthirsty in a cruel, brutal way. More, he is seeking to kind of create a safe haven for people who have been cast out from, regular society, if you will. So he's able to navigate the politics, and it very quickly goes from just a couple of small bandit groups to now more and more are flocking to his banner. And there are now power struggles, and there's politics involved as these various lieutenants who bring a group of bandits in and swear fealty to Ogden are now forced to work together with other groups. And he kind of has to navigate all of this. And Advisor is at every step of the way helping him to see and to overcome the challenges that he might face to do so. And that is how the two of them become the leaders of this bandit nation. So those are the answers to our keeper questions. Next, let us go ahead and I think I've done a couple of neglect and mischief. I think this is actually going to be victories and valor. So valiant acts, vanquished evil, and inspiring maneuvers. Choose an option from below and answer questions. Change something as you grow notorious, proud, or legendary. So once again, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options here. I'll roll my d6. A 3. A great warrior was trapped in an impossibly tall tower by an evil sorcerer. Why did your keeper owe them their life? And how did you help free them? Well, I think as happens when you're a bandit king, there are many who would seek to overthrow you. And I think in the course of Ogden's rise as the bandit king of this area, he happened into a friendship with a great warrior who I think saved his life in a moment where maybe Advisor wasn't able to warn him quickly enough about a plot that was underway to assassinate him, to kill him. And this great warrior stood up and put an end to the conspirators who were trying to strike Ogden down. And I think we should give this person a name. So I'm going to roll another 2d6. Hippolyta. Yes. I think Hippolyta was part of Ogden's original group and has followed him across, those hills and into the sands to sack the ancient city in the Comitian Empire, and then retreating back to this lair. And she's been with him throughout each of these steps as his power has grown. And it's at this moment when the knives come out and these conspirators move to strike Ogden down that she moves. She's been waiting in the wings, and she cuts them down almost without any issue or difficulty at all, because she's quiet and often hidden in the shadows. And she just appears out of the darkness, and the metal of her blades just cuts them down. And I think Ogden recognizes her power and her potential, and she becomes his bodyguard. Now, there comes a time where there is a sorcerer in a tower kind of near the mountains where they've made their base. Ogden goes to this sorcerer with Hippolyta and a few other of his group. And Ogden's hope is to create an alliance with this sorcerer and to maybe even bring the sorcerer into this community, this kingdom that he's building. But it becomes very clear very quickly that this sorcerer is a necromancer, dabbling in vile magics. I think even as they're approaching the tower, Advisor whispers in Ogden's ear and warns him of the danger. But I think Ogden's a little brash, a little adventurous, and presses on. And so in the course of this negotiation, it becomes clear that the sorcerer has no interest in joining them. And in fact, really only invited them because they offer him exactly the thing that he wants, which is bodies. It's a trap. And the sorcerer unleashes this trap. And I think that Hippolyta fights and holds the stairway as Ogden and the others escape. And she is finally at the last kind of overpowered by these undead creatures and the magics of the sorcerer. And he takes her prisoner because certainly he could just kill her and raise her up as an undead servant. But I think he sees the potential in her for something greater. So he is holding her in this tower. And I think that Ogden, feeling guilty for having left her behind, has to find a way to free her from this imprisonment. And I think it's during this time that Advisor whispers in his ear that there is a family north of this tower, some ways into the kind of open plains, open grassy plains of the countryside around them, that have been whispered to fight against necromancers. And so Ogden goes and finds this family. And they are a family of warriors who have sworn to defeat and destroy any source of necromantic power in this land. And so he strikes a deal with them. And they're very kind of upright, very paladin-esque figures. And so for them to make a deal with Ogden, it seems strange, but their main focus is destroying evil, and he is more than willing to guide them to this tower and to help them fight against this evil in order to secure the release of Hippolyta. And they do. It's a hard-fought battle, but it certainly creates a kinship between Ogden and this family as they strike down this evil sorcerer, and Hippolyta is freed. So we have to change something. I think the thing that changes here, it's not necessarily the artifact, it's a detail about something in your world, a name, a faction, etc. And I think for the first time, Ogden has some semblance of legitimacy as he has allied with this holy warrior family who have helped him destroy this sorcerer, this evil necromancer. And I think there is this nascent kingdom that is starting to grow up in this land. And because of these acts, even though Ogden started as a bandit king, he's starting to gain some legitimacy in this region. Now it's time to answer one of the artifact questions. Once again, we've got 6 of those. Number 1, over time, you gain a name or honorific. What is it and why? So we've already answered this, but I wonder if there is a change that happens. There is a way in which an honorific is added. So currently the artifact is called Advisor, but maybe because it has been part of these political machinations, it is also called Kingmaker. And maybe that's what Ogden starts calling it. Kingmaker. And it's almost a joke between them. Yes, Kingmaker. I like the sound of this. Now it's time to consider how Ogden loses the artifact. I think that the years pass and Ogden becomes more and more legitimate and less of a bandit king. And he, at a certain point, he's becoming an old man. And at this point, he is a noble in this kingdom, the kingdom of Resden that has grown up in this land. He is a duke of the southern region. And as he's getting older, as he's getting closer and closer to death, he thinks more and more on the actions of his youth and remembers the sacking of that ancient city. And I think there is a part of him that feels like he needs to make some recompense for that action. And so I think as he is growing frail, he takes Kingmaker from his neck, says goodbye to this old friend who has walked with him through many, many adventures. And he sends it away back to that city with a messenger to apologize to the people of that city for looting its riches. And now we choose the amount of time that passes. A month, a year, a decade, a century, centuries, a millennium. I'm going to roll a d6. Centuries. So for centuries, we rest for 3 minutes, and then we choose once on dust and rust or shifts and currents. So shifts, this is another table of questions. So shifts and currents, the sun turns, empires rise and fall, and heroes fade to memory. Dust and rust, muck and murk, tarnished metal and slow, inevitable erosion. Let's roll on shifts and currents. Number 1, time reframes the actions of one of your keepers. Once considered a selfless hero as immoral or mercenary. What happened and what actions are twisted or reinterpreted? So I think that messenger arrives in that city to discover that there has been a renaissance. Another member of Ibrahim's family has risen to power, and the man who was once considered politically savvy and ruthless, who fought his way to the top and held power, is now in many ways revered as a lost soul, as someone who struggled with inner demons. And upon the return of this amulet, there's someone who recognizes it as belonging at one time to Ibrahim. And so it almost becomes a museum piece, a monument to this former prince of the city, a memory of who he was and the shrewd political maneuvering he did, while also struggling with feeling isolated, cut off. I don't think that anyone realizes that this amulet, this artifact, is the thing that was his only advisor. But they recognize it as a part of who he was, and a turning point of when he returned from the catacombs with it, that he was a different person going forward. And so I think it is put away in a mausoleum dedicated to Ibrahim. And there it stays for 100 years, 200, 300. Let's roll a d6. 600 years sitting in this mausoleum, quiet, waiting to be discovered once again until a new keeper arises. A righteous champion, haughty, passionate, and steadfast. Let's give them a name. Daphne, the righteous champion. I think with 600 years passing, there is probably a lot that changes in this city. And maybe even Ibrahim's family is no longer within the power structure. But I think something that does last is the idea of this fae coming to the city in search of knowledge. People don't necessarily worship fae, but maybe this particular religious group that grows up in the city begins to view this fae as a harbinger of sorts. One who sought out great power and came face to face with a great evil buried deep beneath the city. And so as this group arises, I think so does the fascination with the visit of this fae to the city. And there are records of it. Records of the events that transpired before her disappearance. And I think that the amulet is found in this mausoleum by those who are studying the history of this fae and anyone that she might have been connected to. And so they stumble upon Ibrahim and his story, and they retrieve the amulet and bring it out. And it becomes a part of this religious order. And so one of their seekers, a young woman named Daphne, is bestowed with it. And I think that over the 600 years, Kingmaker, Advisor, the artifact has gone quiet, has retreated within itself. And it's only now that it's back in the land of the living, surrounded by breathing, speaking, thinking beings once again, that it starts to wake up. And I think the first interaction that it has with Daphne is while she is going through her nightly prayers. Her prayers to the holy fire that cleanses and purifies, that warms and protects. This voice whispers in her ear, "Child, what is this fire you speak of?" And I think for a moment she's taken aback because, first of all, who is expecting to hear a voice in your head in the midst of your prayers? And I think for a moment she wonders, like, is this a test? Is this the holy fire speaking to her? But then the voice very quickly says, no, I am no god, although I have existed for centuries. I am simply an advisor, one who helps others on their path. And I think it's at this point that Daphne explains to Advisor her purpose. These are the keeper's questions. Describe the religious order's goals. How did you help them complete an epic quest? So I think the goals are to spread the fire, but also to purify the city. And I think what that means is that there is rumor of some ancient evil that lurks beneath the city. And the supplicants of the holy fire are, on the one hand, they go about kind of preaching the power and the warmth of this holy fire. And then there are the seekers like Daphne, whose goal is to find and root out evil, to burn it out with the fire. And her epic quest is to delve the depths beneath the city, find this ancient evil, and destroy it once and for all. It's in this conversation that Advisor, I think, almost experiences a chill and says, "I know the evil you speak of. It is buried deep, so very deep. My first keeper died so deep." And I think that at that, Daphne says, "You were carried by Asharia Fayblast?" And Advisor says, "How do you know that name?" There are stories of her coming to the city, seeking knowledge. We always assumed that she was sent by the holy fire to burn out this evil. Advisor laughs. "No, she was not sent. Not by any fire. Unless you consider the fire within herself, the passion to create. No, she was seeking knowledge in the catacombs." I think he goes quiet and does not share that it was his desire to keep pressing on that ultimately led to her demise. And so the two of them proceed, because I think Advisor does feel this guilt surrounding Asharia's death, even centuries on from it. And Daphne is clearly determined to go into the catacombs to seek out this evil and destroy it. Together, they go into the depths. Now, I'm going to answer a couple of the other questions before we get to the completion of her epic quest, because I want to see if any of those play in. I think I'm going to roll this time a d6, and a 1, 2, or 3 will roll on the victories and valor table. 4, 5, and 6 will roll on neglect and mischief. A 6. Well, bugger. 2. You were thrown carelessly atop a huge heap of treasure. There was another sentient item within the hoard. What did you learn from this other intelligence, and did you get along? So I think what that tells me is that they do descend into the depths beneath the city. They go deeper and deeper, and Advisor remembers the way and is able to guide her through the twists and turns of this catacomb, deeper and deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels of this hidden city beneath the city. And the closer they get, the more this oppressive feeling of evil begins to weigh heavily upon Daphne and upon even Advisor. I think even Advisor can feel it. Daphne is growing weaker as they get closer and closer, but every few steps she reaches past the amulet to her skin. the skin on her sternum, where a fiery brand has melted the skin and flesh there. And she touches it and she says her prayers to the holy fire. And whatever this power is imbues her with strength to carry on. And they reach the depths of this place. And they find a pit full of this Icarus substance that bubbles and reeks like death itself. The oppressive nature of this evil is so close to snuffing out Daphne's light. But she manages to perform a purifying ritual, and it burns away this vile substance. And almost immediately, that heavy weight is lifted. Advisor feels it. Daphne feels it. I think, in a way, the city feels it. With Advisor's help, she stumbles her way out. And then she is barely able to emerge from the catacombs when she collapses, exhausted, spent. Other members of her order gather her up and take her back. An Advisor is removed from around her neck and taken to the order's vault, where it is placed in a corner while Daphne the Seeker recovers from her injuries. They're not physical injuries, they're injuries of the soul. So much of her internal fire was spent to wipe out this evil that she slumbers without waking. And while she does, Advisor is locked in this small chamber with a whole bunch of different treasures that the Order has gathered. One of them, of course, I think is a sword. Intelligent sword, haughty, confident in itself. And I think the two of them speak. And the thing that the sword teaches Advisor is that it is not enough to stand aside and let other people take action. That it is incumbent upon them as intelligent items to take action for themselves. Which, of course, a sword would say such a thing. I think Advisor views this sword as maybe a little bit of a himbo. Just a little bit more brawn than brains. But I think there's a kernel of truth there that stays with Advisor. As this feeling of regret over having gotten Asharia killed all those years ago by inaction that he did not stop her from delving deeper, and perhaps even from his own action of wanting to discover deeper secrets that were there. So I think he resolves to be better in the future. So Advisor's traits are whispering, beguiling, and obsessed. I think that obsessed, like he's come face to face with the thing that caused him to be obsessed in the first place. And I think that we can strike out obsessed, and we can change it to determined to act. Now it's time to answer another artifact question. You are immortal. You do not grow old. What preoccupation of the keepers is most strange to you as one that cannot die? I mean, I think the obvious one is death, but that's obvious. So let's toss that out. So I think the preoccupation of the keepers that is most strange to Advisor is, in a very strange way, love. Because I don't think it's the companionship part of love that is confusing. I think that Advisor wants to have a partner, a keeper, to exist with. And the times where Advisor has been lost without a keeper have been very challenging. Because by his nature, it is to interact and be collaborative with someone else. But I don't think that Advisor understands love in the self-sacrificing, gut-wrenching reality of what it is. And so observing the keepers who have gone through their lives and tried to find love has been, I think, in many ways, very confusing. Seeking knowledge, that makes sense. Understanding things, having companionship, totally get it. But the pain that a person puts themselves through to be in love is utterly baffling to Advisor. Consider how the keeper loses you. I wonder if Daphne ever wakes. She, servant of the sacred fire, unleashed its holy light upon this evil deep beneath the city, consuming her own life force in order to destroy it. I think the days turn to weeks and weeks turn to months as Daphne does not waken from her slumber. Healers and priests attend to her, but there is just something missing. And I think that the last time that Advisor sees Daphne is that moment when she's carried into the temple of the order and he's removed from her neck and taken away. And he does not feel her presence in this place anymore. She lives, yet when he reaches out to whisper in her mind, it's not there anymore. And it's time to wait for a new keeper. A century passes. Time once again to choose dust and rust or shifts and currents. I'll roll a d6. 5 will roll on shifts and currents. You are swallowed by a passing sentient ooze, translucent and hungry. Where does the strange creature make its home? And what else of note churns with you in its viscous form? Well, I think that Advisor sits in this treasure vault for a long time. And through a crack that started as just a little fracture and then has grown over the years, this wall starts to disintegrate as this ooze emerges into this room. And it captures Advisor And it captures some other religious totems, some small gems. Notably, I think that it passes up the blade. There's a mournful wishing of farewell as the ooze squeezes back out through the hole. And Advisor can feel the blade getting further and further away. And like ancient friends, they say farewell as the ooze pushes its way through the city into the sewers beneath. And on through the catacombs, dissolving small rodents and gathering up detritus here and there. And so for the rest of a century, Advisor remains within the bounds of this ooze as it shifts around the city, waiting for a new keeper to arrive. Thus ends Act 2 of the Artifact's life. And next time, we will discover how a new keeper finds Advisor and what fate befalls them in that time. Thanks for listening to Errant Adventures. If you enjoyed the show, please spread the word. And if you want to support the show directly, leave me a review or support me on Patreon at patreon.com/errantadventures. You can also buy me a coffee at ko-fi.com/errantadventures. If you want to interact with me, my handle on all the socials is @errantsolopod, or you can email me at errantsolopod@gmail.com. I also post short fiction and campaign-related materials on my website, errantadventurespod.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the deep, liars.